So we all remember Paul, right? And how he was incredibly cruel towards his Chimchar before ultimately abandoning it, while it was still injured, by the way. Man, this guy really was something else. But to be fair, at least he learned his lesson in the end. Even Infernape forgave him. What if I told you there was a Pokemon trainer who was far worse, who treated his Pokemon far more cruelly than Paul ever did, and who never learned his lesson either? Well, let me introduce you to Sheamus. So you might be wondering who this knockoff Shaggy is and how he could possibly be more evil than Paul? Well, you guys are in for a treat. Let's dive in right away.
A good night's sleep and then on to Icyrus City.
So Ash, Iris, and Silent arrive in Accumula Town and they see this battle going on between Sheamus and this other guy who Sheamus absolutely wipes the floor with. And Ash, seeing Sheamus' skill, wants to talk to him after the battle, so they follow him into the hallway of the battle club. But what do they see Sheamus doing?
You didn't think I'd battle with you for free, did you? Now let me see all your Pokémon.
Of all the mean...
Yeah, Sheamus is trying to coerce the guy he defeated into giving him his Pokemon, just because he lost the battle. Seriously? This already off the bat is something Paul would never do. Just saying. But at least for now, Sheamus realizes he's outnumbered and he backs off. But it makes you wonder, how many people has he done this to before and he's gotten away with too? Like, clearly he's strong enough to win a lot of battles, so how many Pokemon has he stolen from trainers this way? Anyway, later when everyone's eating lunch in the common area, Ash notices that his Tepig has taken a liking to Sheamus, which is kind of weird, right? Well, not so much when you remembered what happened to Ash's Tepig so many episodes ago outside of Accumula Town. And if you guys don't remember, Ash first met Tepig near Accumula Town when it was abandoned by its previous trainer. He found it with a rope tied around its snout so it couldn't even eat, and the poor thing was starving. Okay, so as terrible as this all was, I kind of had a thought watching this episode for the first time when I was a kid. Couldn't Tepig just use Ember to burn the rope instead of, I don't know, just starving to death? But anyway, if I haven't made it abundantly clear yet, the trainer who abandoned Tepig was in fact Sheamus. He left it after it lost a battle to a deerling. So let's just compare him to Paul again. Yes, we've seen Paul abandon Pokemon before too. But hear me out. Did he ever tie a Pokemon to a stake and just leave it there? At least Paul released his Pokemon back into the wild or gave them away to another trainer. Like, isn't this just unnecessarily cruel for no reason? Anyway, after this, Ash puts 2 and 2 together and gets mad after realizing that this is the guy that abandoned Tepig. So he challenges Sheamus to a battle, and Ash says that if he wins, Sheamus has to apologize to Tepig. Which, you know, fair. Ash is standing up for his Pokemon, and I'm all for it. But unfortunately, Tepig isn't really feeling it. And to make matters worse, this guy and his Pokemon are known as the Fire Warriors, and they only do double battles. And who does Ash choose to battle him with?
My team's gonna be Tepig and Snivy.
Come on, man. Like, this is the one time where this goofy little otter could actually clean up here. But there's a reason why Snivy is the right choice. See, Ash's Snivy has always been good at picking out good trainers from the bad. Like, before Ash caught her, she abandoned her previous trainer because she didn't think they were strong enough, or maybe she thought she deserved better. We never really get the full story, but one thing is clear. Snivy doesn't settle. So when she sees Tepig struggling with the idea of battling his former trainer who abandoned him in Accumula Town, Snivy doesn't just sit back and watch. She pushes Tepig to fight back. Not for Ash, not even for revenge. She does it just so Tepig can prove himself that he's stronger than the trainer who threw him away. Snivy knows exactly what's at stake here, and she's not about to let Tepig give up before the battle even starts. This is why I love Ash's Snivy. Yeah, she's a bit of a diva sometimes, but she's also fiercely loyal to her team. When one of them is in trouble, she always steps up. But anyway, this video isn't about Snivy, it's about this jerk. So why is Tepig so hesitant to battle him in the first place? Well, the night before the battle, Tepig reminisces on the day he was abandoned, and we learn the truth. Sheamus left Tepig, with a sad look in his eyes, saying that it would be cruel to force a weak Pokemon to battle just to be knocked out over and over. Sheamus then says Tepig would be better off living free. Tepig then chases after Sheamus, so Sheamus ties him to the stake so Tepig can't follow him, and then he leaves, crying, so clearly heartbroken about this hard decision he had to make. And I can hear what you guys are saying. This guy clearly has more empathy than Paul. Not all Pokemon are good at battling, or are meant to be. So isn't Sheamus actually making sense here? But I promise you, if you keep watching, Sheamus will show us his true colors. But let's get to the battle. The next morning, on the battlefield, as you'd expect, Snivy is raring to go, but Tepig doesn't really seem up for it. And now let's see what Pokemon Sheamus chooses.
Warriors, Embor, Heatmore, showtime!
Yeah, if I'm completely honest, when I first watched this episode when I was a kid, I totally expected Ash to lose this battle, but let's just see how it goes. So at first, as expected, the battle doesn't go too well, with Ash's Tepig refusing to attack. Poor thing keeps getting hit over and over and still refuses to fight. And when Ash realizes that no matter what he'll say, Tepig won't battle, he accepts that this is now a 2v1.
Snivy, you'll have to cover for Tepig, okay? Good, let's go!
Cover for Tepig? How? How is this little leaf supposed to stand up against two fire warriors? Tepig, please get your shit together, man. Snivy doesn't deserve to be put through this. But to my surprise, Snivy actually stands her ground. She uses Attract to immobilize Embor and gets some good hits in. But then watch how Sheamus responds.
Now Heatmore, use Fury Swipes on Embor!
Why would it attack its own teammate?
Yeah, during this battle, he attacked his own Pokemon. And look at how happy he is to see his own Pokemon in pain. Yeah, Paul was cruel, but I don't think he ever enjoyed causing pain like Sheamus did here. So yeah, literally in every capacity so far, this guy is worse than Paul. Except one, right? Remembering how Sheamus showed empathy when he released Tepig, I thought, hey, not forcing a weak Pokemon to battle, like I might not agree with how Sheamus went about it, but the idea that some Pokemon don't enjoy battling does make sense to me. So how could someone who understands this concept be so cruel? Well, I'm gonna let Sheamus explain it to you himself.
Whenever I abandon a Pokemon, I always make it think I'm so sad. If not, there are always some who'll just keep following me around. That's a relief.
Yeah, this guy pretended to be sad to straight up gaslight every single Pokemon he abandoned. And he did it so often that he built up a routine on how to manipulate people and Pokemon using his emotions. Dude, what the hell? And I remember watching this episode when I was a kid, praying that Ash wouldn't lose to this jerk. And honestly, I think he heard me, because this battle was just starting to turn around for the better, but not before the craziest moment. So Sheamus comes up with this crazy Fire Spin Flare Blitz combination that Silent calls
Super Flare Blitz!
And Tepig is too stunned to move out of the way. And take a look at what Snivy does. Yeah, Snivy pushes Tepig out of the way in the face of this beast of a fire type attack, and she shows zero fear while doing so. And yeah, obviously this was an instant knockout, but honestly, MVP of the fight. Even after being knocked out, Snivy stays outside of her Pokeball just to watch Tepig battle. Like, imagine the amount of pain this little snake is in right now, but all she wants is for Tepig to show Sheamus his true strength. Like, she is such a team player, but I'm getting sidetracked. Let's see how this battle ends. So Tepig is up against some pretty tough odds here. Neither Heatmore nor Embor have taken a lot of damage, but Tepig, after realizing what kinds of friends he has, evolves into Pig Knight, learns Fire Pledge, and manages to get a double knockout on Heatmore and Embor through the wonderful power of friendship. And what happens next? Sheamus has the audacity to come up to Pig Knight and say,
Hey, I know. Since you haven't been able to forget me after all this time, why don't you come back to the team?
I'm sorry, what? Sheamus really is pathetic, man. And that's the end of his story. After he leaves the battle club with his tail between his legs, he never makes a reappearance in the Pokemon anime. So yeah, maybe Paul was a jerk, but at least he grew up. Sheamus? I doubt he ever learned a thing, but we'll never know, because we never see him again. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching.